Are you wanting to add spiritual teaching into your business and you have never been a teacher before? Well, stay tuned. I'm going to show you how to be such a successful teacher so that you can be the best spiritual teacher ever. Okay, so let's go get ahead and get started. So let's talk about how to become a spiritual teacher. And this includes how to add different elements into your lesson so that everybody will want to come to you and learn. So, the first thing that you really need to implement into all of your lessons is you need to remember that everybody has different learning styles. This is the number one thing that you need to remember. And think about the best way that you learn. And just know that there are so many different people out there that might learn the same way as you do, but also learn differently. So, let me go ahead and talk about the different styles. So here are the four basic styles. We have the visual, where people, whenever they learn very visually, they learn by seeing. This means that you may need to implement graphs, maybe pictures, maybe videos, so that these people who learn visually will learn the best way possible. Now, auditorily, listening and speaking, these are the people that do very well just by listening. They don't need any visuals, they don't need anything else. They're good about just really listening to what a teacher is trying to teach. And they don't have and need anything else. But you may also need to include different verbal instructions. So if you have something written down and you're trying to explain it to a visual learner and you've got everything written down, you may want to include also auditory. So as you read the instructions. And a lot of times these auditory learners will need to talk about it. So you may need to break up your students into groups so that they can actually talk about what they just learned. Now, the next one is reading and writing. Now, these type of learners will love to have book and text. They love to read and take notes. I know that I'm one that always love to take notes with everything that the the teacher is teaching. So I love to take notes. And then they also make love to make lists. So if you're trying to make a point or show your students how to complete an exercise, you may want to do that in a list form. The last thing on this major list is kinesthetic learners. These are the ones that have to actually do the exercises. They actually have to do something physically. They move and learn by doing. So, whenever you are teaching a certain concept, you may need to have your students do an exercise and actually do what you just talked about. And also, so role playing. So, if you're trying to teach maybe a light worker or a psychic reader how to complete readings, maybe they also need to become the client or the sitter so they know what to expect or see what a sitter goes through. All right, so these are the basic four different learning styles, but there are also a couple more. We have those people that are so logical that need everything statistically. They need to know, well, what's the reasoning behind that? And also the sequences. Now, these learning styles are really good for you to know if you are having your students have homework. So if they have homework, these are the three best learning styles that you need to really understand. Social collaboration in teams. Maybe you have a homework that they can actually do together as a team. And that's the best way that they learn. Well, and then sometimes you'll get these students who like to learn by themselves and solitary. They like to self study, they learn independently, they don't need anyone to really help them learn. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to know how everybody learns because everybody learns so differently. So, what do you do? Well, you just try to incorporate all of these different learning styles into your lessons and also in your homework. And then the more you get to know your students, then you'll be able to integrate more of their learning styles. But in the very beginning, just start fresh and just say, you know what, I'm going to teach everybody. Even those people that complain that they don't want to work with anybody, it's still good lesson for them to learn of how to work with others. Second element that you need to really add into your lessons are teach what inspires you. There is not anything worse than having a teacher that does not like what she is teaching and is very dry and just like, maybe I have to do this. And no, make sure that you teach what inspires you, because if it inspires you, you will come across that to your students, and your students will go, oh my gosh, I've got to learn from her. So I found this quote: teaching is more than imparting knowledge, it is inspiring change. Learning is more than absorbing facts, it is acquiring an understanding. And if you show them, your students, that you are so inspired by what you're teaching, you are actually building trust. People will go, you know what? I really trust her because she really believes in this material. She feels like it's going to make a world of difference. So you will build the trust in your students if they see that you are inspired by what you teach. The third thing that you need to add into your spiritual lessons is to teach what you know. A lot of light workers out there want to try to teach everything that's out there. And there's so many subjects under metaphysical world and in the spiritual world. So what you need to do is look at your website, look at your offerings. What what you offer is what you know. So I am a psychic medium. So a lot of my lessons, a lot of my teachings come from how to be a psychic medium. And also, I've worked with children for so long that I also offer lessons and workshops on how to work with children with psychic abilities. Now, if somebody came to me and they wanted to know about astrology, I do not know anything about astrology. So I wouldn't even try to teach anything about astrology. I would give them a resource or a person that teaches something about astrology. Now, if I am teaching a group of students and they want to know something that I am unaware and I'm going, I've never heard of that before, but let me look it up and we'll talk about it next week. So there's nothing wrong about, answering a question by saying, I don't know. I'm going to look this up. And then when you come back, you can say, you know what? You taught me something, because students will teach you lots of things that you were unaware of. And it also shows them that, yes, you don't know everything. You're just help guiding them along this journey of knowledge. The fourth thing I felt like I really wanted to talk about today, whenever you're creating your spiritual lessons, you also need to remember that you need to be very patient whenever you're teaching students, especially light workers, because light workers are empaths. And empaths are very, very sensitive and they're very emotional, especially when they're learning new things or when they have that ah moment. They get so excited. And you know what? When they get excited, or just anybody in general get excited, you stop listening. And when you stop listening, then you don't hear the lesson. So then what happens? The teacher has to repeat the lesson. And that's a lot of times whenever you are recording it. And if you have a light worker that said, you know what, I don't remember anything you said because I just got so excited about learning a concept, or maybe they got afraid of something and they just stopped learning. Well, you can say, you know what, it's on the recorded video and I will send it to you whenever next week or whenever it's ready. So the number one thing that you need to really remember whenever you do include patience in your lessons is to add guidelines, especially from day one with your students. You need to really have the rules that you have in a classroom. Just remember what worked with you as a child. What did your teacher tell you when you're sitting among 20 students or 30 students or more? What did they tell you? What kind of rules did they tell you that you would have to follow so that you could learn the best that you can? So you're going to have to do the exact same thing from day one is have expectations, especially if you are on Zoom. Make sure that, say, you know what? Everybody's microphone needs to be turned off. And unless we are discussing something and I say, okay, you can unmute, okay? Because I guarantee you, because a lot of empaths are so excited, they want to say, you know what? I love this. I want to share an experience with you. So many times you're going to just have to say, not at this time. Let's share at a different time. Okay. So make sure that you definitely have the guidelines and the rules that you need with your students so that they understand the expectations that, the behavior expectations that you have for them so that they can learn a great deal from you. Okay, so the fifth and final thing that you need to remember whenever you're creating a lesson is that you want your students to soar higher than you spiritually. With their knowledge, with their journey, they need to continue without you. Okay, so don't enable your students. Don't enable them and trying to keep them under your wing. They need to soar to their highest potential. Now, I found this quote and I absolutely love this quote. It says, "The true spiritual teacher empowers you to go beyond them. A false spiritual teacher keeps you behind them." Make sure as you're completing your spiritual lessons that the goal is to have your students rise above you and be able to change the world without you and maybe not ever return to any lesson that you teach again. That just means that you are a fantastic spiritual teacher. So, today, what we talked about are several different elements and things that you may need to think about whenever completing a spiritual lesson. Is that you need to remember those different learning styles that each student may need to look at, or you may need to really think about how you should teach something because not everybody learns the same way. The second one is teach what inspires you. The third one, teach what you know. The fourth one is be patient. That is a big one. Be very patient as you're teaching all of your lessons. And of course, the fifth thing that you need to include your lessons is to teach your students to soar. All right. I hope this helps you be a fantastic teacher. Go out and teach the world.